jump through.
All right. I'll call this meeting to order. Would somebody like to make a motion to go into executive session? All right. Any comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we will be back from our executive session shortly. So thank you very much. back from executive session and we have nothing to report. Welcome to the City Council meeting this April 15th, 2024. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start off with the invocation and then the pledge. And if you don't mind, please rise. You are welcome to join me in prayer. Loving Father, we thank you for your grace and generosity. Thank you for allowing us to come together to discuss our community needs and working together for the betterment of our city. Help us to listen with goodwill and act with conviction and character. Help us to treat all with dignity and respect our differences to make life better for all. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We'll start this meeting off with a proclamation where it's our honor to recognize the telecommunicators for the week of April 14th through 20th of 2024. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. Whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of our police officers, our firefighters, our paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. Whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and the accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Clemson Emergency Communications Center. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, our firefighters, by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. Whereas public safety telecommunications of the Clemson Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job. Now, therefore, I, Robert Halfacre, the mayor of the City of Clemson, do hereby proclaim April 14th through 20th, 2024 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Clemson in honor of those whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the city to be affixed this 15th day of April 2024. Thank you very much to our telecommunicators throughout our city. We're very thankful for them. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will bring that back and we will post it up for them. Just to remind everyone in the room, our telecommunicators, number one, are the best around. Number two, they do double duty. They're also jailers because they run our jail as well, so they're not just telecommunicators. And three, our staff has done a good job of highlighting our telecommunicators on our Facebook page. The first one went up today, and they're the people that you hear on the phone but you never see, so at least you get to see a picture of them and learn a little bit about them on our Facebook page. But thank you very much for honoring them.
Thank you, Chief. We greatly appreciate it. Yes, sir. And before we go to public session, I'm just going to remind everybody we do have ADA equipment up here. I think we have up to 10, something like that. Steve was saying something like that. Thank you. But I will turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Alicia Smith to handle public session.
Good evening. We have a packed house. So this is an opportunity for individuals who would like to speak with City Council about any issue that is not already on the agenda. So if it's something outside that's not already on the agenda, you're happy, please be free to come up and share that with us. You have 3 minutes to speak. We just ask that you state your name and your residence, where you live, and then after you speak, we'll ask you to go sign the information sheet that's over there on Jeremiah's desk. So if you have something you'd like to share with us that's not already in our policy actions, reports discussion, or other policy items, this is your time to come up and speak. And you have, like I said, 3 minutes to do that. And I hope people out there in the lobby can hear as well. So can I get a thumbs up? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to read one, and so if someone changes their mind, they can come up, but I do have one that came in today. And it came in through our Civic app, my Civic app, and it's from, I'm trying to find their name, Jessica Lively, and she resides at, it says 2298 Founders Boulevard, Central South Carolina, which I believe is the Grange property. We all have safety concerns for Chapman Hill Road at the bridge forward to the entrance of the Grange. We have spoken to Nathan, the engineer for the city, and he advised of the plan for Phase 3, Bridge of the Grange, plan to help with the close and fixture of the road and bridge. It's not in the budget currently, he advised. Our concern as a representative of the Grange is the weight of the bridge cannot handle the construction that is going over it on a daily basis. Many of those trucks are overweight that is allowed on that bridge. This is a huge safety concern for us residents. Not only that, but the continuously potholes that just continue to get patched and keep breaking back. Our cars are beat up. I suffered a cracked rim because of all the potholes, and I know many people have had issues as well. How can the city allow Phase 2 of the Grange or even current construction knowing that this bridge is overweight and dangerous for the residents? When is the plan to correct this? Please advise. Thank you, the Grange residents. And I do know we are reviewing and looking into that issue.
I'm meeting with a group of them tomorrow evening.
So,
Is
thank
that
you
a
for that comment.
state road?
That's a city road.
City road, okay.
Are there any other comments? And because of time, Mayor, I'm going to turn it back over to you and close out public session because I don't think we have any more comments at
Thank
this
you
time.
very much. Appreciate it again. Next is the possible approval of minutes for April 1st, 2024. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 1st, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Any comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Stephen?
I don't know what that is.
And while he's doing that, just a reminder, I know everybody's very conscientious about cell phones, but just a reminder about trying to make sure your cell phone does not go off so that everybody can hear. That would be great. Next is reports and discussion. And first is discuss making changes to the PD requirements to encourage greater collaboration among property owners, ensure sufficient setbacks from the property line for drainage, and allow for sidewalks and pathways. Councilmember Watt.
Yes. This is what happens when you take a week off of work to work on city stuff. You end up with 3 things on the agenda. So we changed the rules for planned development down to 2 acres. And I know we did that with some intention in terms of downtown and uptown, but I don't think that it's working the way we intended. I think we need to return to the 4 acres and create more room, because the 2 acres, what we're finding is that it doesn't create collaboration. It doesn't create opportunities to develop by right, which gets to this next item. But instead, we end up with exceptional density and very limited ability for walkways and other things, because they're trying to fit as much as they can on 2 acres. And so if we go back, it'll encourage more people to work together, I think, to build better planned developments, which is what we have when we have things like Patrick Square, and even the Grange and other places. So that's why I'm hoping that we can get back to where we used to be with planned developments.
Comments, discussion?
I mean, I think it's good to always have planning commission kind of look and refresh and look over things. I find it interesting because you're kind of taking it to where a PD at a minimum would be the size of the hub. So that's kind of interesting there. That's what we're talking about a lot tonight. But regardless, I think anytime you can build these things in planning commission, they can review our stuff. We can sharpen up in a lot of areas. So.
And exactly. So that's what I'm hoping for that one.
But you're okay with it going back to the planning commission?
Yes.
All right.
I think talking to planning commission will be a good thing. And along that line, if I may,
No, absolutely.
into the
You
next
got the
one
next 3,
is,
yes.
sorry.
Or next 2, sorry.
is, so right now, one of the reasons that Bob and John have often said, well, let them build by right, and we can talk about property rights all night long, but right now, the setbacks for commercial and mixed-use development is 0 lot line. which means literally right next to the lot line. That's what it means. And that is challenging when we're trying to create a walkable environment, when we're trying to address drainage issues and water issues. And so to encourage more by right development, as John Duckworth likes to do, we want to create that environment that works for us as well. And I think having the setbacks of 15 feet on the sides, we already have setbacks on the front and on the back, would encourage more of that and be in line with what we want.
What is the setback on residential right now?
Depends on the zoning.
Okay. Single family, is it the same for all the single family zoning?
No, it depends on the zoning district. It ranges between 10 feet.
Jacob, probably the best. Come
Sorry.
on, yeah.
Sorry, Jacob.
I can answer any questions on this topic you'd like.
Tell everybody who you are.
Oh, my name is Jacob Peabody. I'm the city zoning official. The setback to residential range, the minimum is 5 feet, and that is in line with the building code reasons. There are situations for townhouses and whatnot, there's obviously 0 lot lines, but for general detached single family, it ranges between 5 feet and 10 feet. Our biggest side setback is 10 feet.
Got it.
And that is in the R20 and R12 districts.
So I guess would that side setback language encompass, if we wanted to encourage townhome building, it wouldn't affect
It wouldn't affect
the
that. It's a
possibility of
different-
that? Okay.
Correct. Townhomes are not a permitted use currently in a commercial zoning district.
Right.
Sorry.
No
Yes,
But 15 feet each, so a 30-foot gap between buildings is what you're looking for.
if you had to, yeah.
Yes, it'd be
And in conversations, that's enough for sufficient drainage, it's enough for HVAC, it's enough for walking paths, it's enough to create that space between buildings that is so important.
Now, even though we do have a 0 lot line setback, we do have a requirement that there be a 16-foot gap for connectivity every 250 feet up. So buildings cannot be more than 250 feet long under our current regulations. Or even if your neighbor is connected and you encompass 250 feet, a gap has to be left for 16 feet currently under our AR district standards in commercial district.
So again, I know that goes back to PC, but those are some of the things as we try to talk about Bob's smart growth ideas, that we need to create more ways to do things by right. And last but not least,
Before Jacob.
sorry, Jacob.
No, do you need
I'm sorry,
Jacob,
Jacob.
Any other questions coming? Thank you, Jacob, for being here. I know Nathan's out. Too. We appreciate it.
I think also, I mean, again, this is comp plan stuff that's great, because I think
Yeah.
that as, staff have been talking, that we probably need a pretty significant rewrite of our entire zoning code, so all of these things, as we continue to go forward, can be handled.
Okay, and last but not least, we had a discussion, I was over at Parks and Rec, with Andy and Allie and Tony Tidwell. We ended up discussing the mosquito fogging program and whether or not we think that is efficacious, whether we think it is dangerous, whatever we think. And Andy made the suggestion that we could try doing away with it, since some of us have concerns about the danger. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't treat mosquitoes, and that's one of the things in terms of doing this in a localized way. If John Fulmer develops a mosquito infestation, that there would still be a way to go out and say what's wrong with that, what can we do, but to really develop more of a resource page of what people can do that is more natural and does not rely on the pesticides.
It's not really a budgetary, I mean, it's not an expensive service to provide, it's just, it got us thinking, a comment, I mean, I've never heard anything positive about it, but only it's somebody out for an evening walk.
Yeah, there's nothing
that
positive to
fogger
say.
came by, or I'm having a barbecue and the fogger came by, something like that, but,
Ask what?
I'm just, as far as their view, you got, how many people there show up?
Yeah, I admit it bothers me a little bit because I try not to use pesticides, but.
I do have a comment that came in, so I'll go ahead and read that from Emily P., and that's how she signed it, Emily P., located at 1155 Old Central Road, and she applauds Clemson City Council member Catherine Watt for taking the initiative to discuss the efficacy of the mosquito fogging program, and she supports eliminating this program for several reasons, and I won't necessarily go over all of them, but first, it's a risk to human health from insecticide exposure, so something to what you talked about. Second, it's the health risk to our environment. which are part of, along with the millions expressions of life we share life with. And then also talks about that there are numerous methods of mosquito control that are safer, cheaper, and more effective, including planting particular herbs, flowers, and putting up nesting boxes for birds and bats, and eliminating sources of standing water. So in closing, I'll just say she supports eliminating the harmful and unnecessary practice of mosquito fogging.
So as Andy said, that we can try it, and if people want to see it back or they have a question, we can always continue to talk about it.
So what are next steps with this?
I would recommend like a public hearing,
Okay.
get some input on it.
Okay.
And we can do some social media things too.
Yeah.
Try to generate some awareness on
Mr.
that.
Lee might have feedback on it.
Mr. Lee?
Some years ago, I was interested in this issue, and I went to the Buildings and Grounds, I believe it's called, and asked them for the MSDS, the Manufacturer Safety Data Sheet, and they gave it to me, and I read it, and from what I could gather, I didn't have any concerns about what was being used then, the chemical. So I'm not certain what's being used now, but that would be a first step. Again, I probably didn't save it, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I would go again and get that data sheet on what they actually spray and know what the factual matters of the chemical being sprayed. And so, and generally, I can tell that I work outside a lot in the yard a lot, and when spraying doesn't go on, it gets bad noticeably. So I think there are health, I don't know all the issues, but there are health concerns about maintaining spraying as long as the chemical is not a harmful chemical. And I'll have to look at that again, but thank you.
Thank you.
I know that I've heard from some of my friends who are beekeepers, for example, that they want to make sure and put their bees, the bees are away and all this other stuff, so.
We'll do a public hearing at our next meeting.
Yeah, you can have a
I don't know
public hearing.
When you're getting into mosquito season, so.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good topic. We could have it prior to your next meeting, May 6th.
Works. Is that right? I see a lot of head nods.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
How about 6 o'clock?
What was the day?
We'll start May 6th.
May
Thank
6th.
you.
Sounds like there might be a good balance there that we could strike, so.
All right. Any other comments, discussion? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Next is discuss updating the tuition reimbursement rate for employee job-related training and development. Tracy, you're coming right up. Appreciate it. Yes.
So what I have sent to you guys is increase for tuition reimbursement for our employees that take classes that pertain to the jobs that they hold here at the city. I've been here almost 20 years, and that is something we have not changed, but obviously tuition has gone up. So something that we need to address. Currently, we're at $500 per semester, not to exceed $1,000 per year. So we would like to adjust that to $1,800 per semester, not to exceed $3,600 per year. And we just pulled numbers, averaged out the cost of per hour for classes. So that's what we would like to discuss with you guys. If you have any questions, if not, then we'll move forward with the next meeting.
How many people are taking advantage of it?
Right now, just 3. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of usage. I think this will promote more usage of the program. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Other comments, questions? Thank you for bringing this. Appreciate it.
Thank
Taking care of the employees.
Thank you.
Next is staff reports. Andy?
I have a couple things, and Ally has some for you. The Kilgore Playground has been rescheduled for the 24th from 3 to 5, and they're also going to be picnic at the park at the same time, and the weather just got in the way of putting that surface down, so they had to move it back. PCMA is on the 30th in Liberty, the Rosemont Center, 6:45. Al?
All right. Start with some good news. I received a letter this morning from the South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department that we received the $100,000 grant for the Toddy's Place Park Trail expansion. So that will help with some drainage issues as well as extend the trail to Ashley Daring Park. So we're excited about that. The FY25 earmark process has opened for the federal government. It is open until April 29th. And so when looking at projects to apply for, we have to remember that these are not for projects that need to happen immediately. It's a long time until we find out if we get them, and then it's a long time to actually get the funds. My recommendation would be to apply for funding for the Issaquena-Cambridge intersection project. It is currently on the ACATS, the Anderson-Clemson Transportation Plan study. It's 10th on the list, so if we were to receive funding, it would bump us up the list some. So I think that would be a good one, but I'm open for recommendations. You all have other ideas?
I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
Well needed.
Because it probably wouldn't get funded otherwise, not anytime soon.
It would be a while.
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Saturday, May 4th, we have our Shred Day.
Yes.
It is completely free. It is here in the lower parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12.
That's great.
And then also we'll have the Clemson Music Fest Friday and Saturday. I'll be sending you all an email. I'll have wristbands for you all to come pick up on Friday or Saturday if you plan to attend. But we're excited.
I know Shred Day, just want to thank Troop 161 for their volunteering as well as city employees, so thank you publicly. Thank you. Thank you. Good? Any other items? Okay. Next is policy action. I'll just as a reminder, each speaker, you have a 2-minute limit, and Jeremiah will be keeping that up there. And also when you come up, please address city council. I know that we sometimes go back and forth, but with this many people in here, sometimes it'll affect the noise. So please, when you come up to the podium, first identify who you are, where you live, sign in please, and then also keep it to the 2 minutes. Jeremiah, you still have the 30-second warning or no? You have the 2-minute clock. Okay, but
And please sign in.
please sign in like I was saying, and then we just want to make sure everybody's heard, and that's what I'm saying. So if you can't speak this way, the speakers will, but if you turn around, if you turn backwards, or if there's outside noise, it'll affect what people are hearing, not only here live, but also on video. So just keep that in mind. So the item is consider the second reading of the proposed plan development hub, Clemson at Abernathy Park. I know it has Nathan Woods on here. Jacob, I don't think you have anything to add. I was just looking at you. I didn't think so. So we'll start off with public comment.
Mr. Mayor, would you like for me to sign in first, or?
Sure. Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kathleen McDaniel. My office is 912 Lady Street in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm here as an attorney representing Holly Ulbrich and Eleanor Hare in their opposition against the Hub Clemson project. Holly and Eleanor are here. They're the only two people that have currently hired me to represent them. However, I think you can see that there is an entire city hall full of people here who are opposed to this project. So if everyone who is opposed, if you could stand up, raise your hand. I graduated from Clemson in 1996. I love this town. It was the best 4 years of my life. Then I went to, well, I did a lot of other things. Then I went to eventually went to law school at USC, but only because Clemson doesn't have a law school yet. I would strongly encourage you to get one. The reason that Holly and Eleanor were able to find me is because this is the type of law that I do. Administrative law, land use, zoning, usually suing municipalities and counties. I currently have a very similar lawsuit going against the University of South Carolina, where the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals issued very different approvals for a project that has been built, and we are currently, we filed the complaint about 2 weeks ago, and we are getting ready to get into litigation on that hot and heavy. I tell you that because I understand that you all are currently facing litigation from the developer of the hub. All of the information for that lawsuit is available at sccourts.org, so anyone in the public can read what has been filed. What you will see is that there is hardly anything in that file other than a case status report that says that a settlement is pending a decision by this body. That, to me, implies that the developer is using that lawsuit as leverage against this body to get what they want. That is not appropriate. And I would encourage you.
We need to wrap it up. Yes, ma'am.
I certainly will. And I would encourage you, as the council members, to think seriously about how long do you want to be in litigation. We ask you to defer the second and final reading so that there can be more input. You all have already recognized that there need to be changes made in your zoning code. Obviously, there need to be some things done to your planned development ordinance. This project needs more thought, more preparation to do what's right for not only my clients, but the entire city of Clemson.
My name is Holly Olbrich. I ran for city council in 2002 as the anti-Walmart candidate, which was successful. They were bullying the city, and I'm not thrilled that Lowe's is there, but it's a much smaller, fewer hours, less traffic, and much better for the neighborhoods of Patrick Square, Camelot, and others in the area. While I was on council, we did two significant things that relate to this project. One was we created Abernathy Park, and we were very proud of that. And the other thing we did was negotiate with the school district for the purchase of the old African-American school, which is in an African-American neighborhood with very narrow streets and up on a hill, and very meaningful to the people in that community that have already suffered some invasion of student housing. And we persuaded some interested developers that that was really not a good place for them to build. Fortunately, the zoning was more favorable to our argument. So they sold it to us, and as you know, the Clemson Child Development Center, the Arts Center, and the African American Museum are housed there, and it's one of the treasures of the city of Clemson. So I want you to think about the kinds of things that a city council can do if they're responsive to the needs of their community. Thank you.
I'm Eleanor Hare, 202 Crest Circle. I think that the document that was approved by the Planning Commission in February is sufficiently different from the document that was approved by the council on April 1 that you really should take a look at it again. There's so many things that are quite different in the document. I would like to point out the problem with the stormwater runoff. The document in February, okayed by the Planning Commission, says that the developer will pay for the stormwater runoff. When you get to April, that phrase has been removed. In fact, I can't find anything in the April document about stormwater runoff. So I have talked to the mayor about it, and he didn't tell me why that was removed, and he also didn't tell me who would pay for it if the developer didn't. We also need to look at the cost of the stormwater runoff. As the stormwater runoff down at Dockside is controlled by tanks. I've read what the city has sent me about stormwater runoff. It is complicated, it is confusing, and it says you simply can't decide what you're doing until you've got a design document. So they can't tell me how expensive it is. But I am concerned at how much it's going to cost and how much it will cost the city, not the developer, but the city. And there are other things, like taking away our park. Thank you.
I'm going to put on your glasses for this. So I have already sent this to City Council, so I'm going to read this directly. I'm Fran McGuire, and I have been and still am a faculty member of Clemson since 1981 and a resident of this city since 1987. I am appreciative and indebted to both those entities for what they've done for me. This morning I Googled Core Spaces, the proposed hub developer. I wanted to get a sense of their perspective on developing student housing. One of the things I looked at was their 6 core values, and it was fascinating. They state that they sustain their culture by, quote, living these 6 values in everything we do, close quote. I went a little further to explore those values, and I won't go through all of them, but it's a trip worth taking. They clearly delineate what drives Core Spaces, quote, residents before everything, and they don't mean the city residents. One value that jumped out at me included this statement: when we do a deal, we are sure it's good for everyone, our residents, our investors, and ourselves. I'll repeat that. Our residents, our investors, ourselves. Seems to me that everyone excludes one important group, the community where they're proposing to build. I wonder whether the individuals who are suing the city share the values of Core Spaces. The Kiwi Trail LLC group includes Kevin Collins and Greg and Clinton Smith, so I did some more research on them. And it's interesting. For example, Greg Smith is very active at Clemson University. He's an active member of the University Board of Visitors, a major donor of the Clemson Golf Program and IPTE, and serves on the Golf Pause Advisory, and he was the 2019 recipient of the Clemson Alumni Association Distinguished Service Award, and one of the criteria for that award is devotion to community and public service. He has accomplished a great deal and is clearly devoted to Clemson in the same way many of us are devoted to the city. Given the connective tissue that binds the university to the city, perhaps if he and his partners were aware that losing their pending lawsuit could bankrupt the city, they would be willing to discuss alternatives beneficial to the city, the university, and themselves, acknowledging that great harm to the city is the same as great harm to the university. I don't have a good read on how much support there is for the
Sorry to
project.
interrupt, but we do need to keep it to 2 minutes.
For this
If you can
project among council
wrap it up.
members,
Yes, sir.
and how much the vote's being driven by fear of losing lawsuit. But assuming it is a factor, I request the council postpone the second reading tonight, and we use the time to sit down with the folks from the Kiwi Trail LLC and see whether there's another path. Do we want the legacy of Abernathy Park to be one that celebrates cooperation and community, or is marred by contentiousness and controversy? Do we want it to reflect our values as a city, or a limited perspective that all that matters are the developers, their investors, and the residents? Thank you.
My name's Elaine Richardson. I live at 301 Edgewood Avenue. In 2014, I wrote a short article, just for me, I didn't do anything with it, about the city of Clemson and how 4 retired ladies might enjoy our town, based on my experiences with my friends. We have traveled to other small towns to do the same thing. Historic home tours in Madison, Georgia, lunch and shopping in places like Brevard and Tryon and Saluda or Walhalla. For a day in Clemson, it would start with strolling through the botanical gardens, stopping downtown for a little souvenir shopping, and ending up with a visit to Abernathy Park. There they would have lunch in a small restaurant lakeside and enjoy any other stores and a beautiful setting of a park on the lake. Is that a pipe dream? Please don't let it be a pipe dream. This is a prime location and a chance to make a special place for residents and visitors alike. Clemson University does draw a lot of visitors. Let's make something special in this location to be a huge draw as well. The presence of a massive and very dense student housing project is not well suited to making the adjacent park a draw. The volume of cars will make it challenging for others to access the park, and where will the handicap parking go when that's removed from this parking area now? I do want to reiterate my concerns for the amount of parking. The developers have planned for 50% of spaces dedicated to their residents, and I quoted a study that said only 46 would bring cars. I think that's a national average. So I did some digging deeper and found another study that separated students by region. In the South, 66% of the students will bring cars. For schools in urban areas, students pretty much don't need a car. For rural areas or suburban areas, a car can be helpful or even necessary. So 66% of 1324 would be 874 parking spaces in addition to public spaces and all that. That would make an even more massive building. According to the pending ordinance, there's a 38-foot grade change from the building site toward the lake, if I read that correctly. This will create an even more massive building when viewed from the lakeside. It will be 700 plus feet long, 7 all the way end to end with no break, and 7 feet tall all the way to end with no break. Please, we do not need to destroy our treasure by putting something that massive adjacent to the lake. Please vote no tonight, or at least vote to postpone a vote to give us a little more time to consider all options. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is William Rupp. I have been a resident of Clemson for a very long time. I'm also an employee of Core Spaces. I'm the Associate Community Manager at Epic Clemson, and it is my intention to keep a neutral tone regarding this scenario. One of the things I want to say is I'm an advocate of leave it better than you found it, and I want to say that since Core acquired our property back in December, they have integrated measures to create more efficient policies and have the company work as a more well-oiled machine. At the same time, I do believe in local diversity, sustainability, and compromise. And as someone that has lived in Clemson for a very long time, my grandparents used to live here, and this is an area that's very special to my heart. It is in my best interest that both parties would hold each other accountable, that Core would develop the area in a sustainable manner, and that there are other things that could be done to satisfy both parties in this scenario. Thank you for your time.
My name is David Allison. I live at 107 Princess Lane in Clemson. And I'm first going to ask this body for some latitude and time. And I am hoping that someone would be able to concede their time to me to make some extensive points. If you would, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay.
And actually, David, and they can allocate their time, but just going to make sure on council it's also okay with that.
Okay.
So, I mean, well, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to defer to our attorney, not mine, our attorney. In this situation, if he wants to defer time, it's a council decision as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So we would have a vote if we're willing to go one extension over the 2 minute, but not beyond that. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So if you're willing, which, do we need to do official vote? I'm just making sure.
Yes, you can do it.
Okay. If you are willing to extend to an extra 2 minutes to to David, please raise your hand. So you have 4 minutes, David. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'm an architect. I'm a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. I'm a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Architects, and I teach healthy community planning and design as a part of my job at Clemson University. So I'm not against height or density per se as a way to promote walkability, mixed uses towards creating healthier communities. However, I am against this unprecedented scale in terms of development of footprint. As you can see from some of the slides that are going to be shown, and if you could advance, and I pointed out before, this building would not fit on the Midtown Manhattan City block of the Empire State Building in New York, nor would it fit, next slide, on the block that houses the Sears Tower in Chicago, two of the largest cities in the United States and two of the largest buildings in the United States. For those of you who have a hard time at comprehending the scale, I made it more clear with the precedent for Death Valley. So if you can imagine walking from the big scoreboard around to the Oculus, this building would be comparable in length of that dimension. And then if you think about the height of Death Valley on the Avenue of Champions, this building is more than half the height of the stadium on the Avenue of Champions, 150 feet. This building is 85 feet high. So it's more than half the height. Okay? So building mass and density and scale. One continuous building, 718 feet from corner to corner at 7 stories high. That is not what a PD is about. I'm also concerned about vehicular congestion and safety exiting from Wall Street. It's not about the traffic count, the incremental traffic count on 123. It's about the cars having to exit on the College Avenue from this development and through another parking garage as an alternative, which is inherently unsafe. Pedestrian and public safety coming from Wall Street. They're promoting pedestrian passageway from Wall Street down into the park. I think that's inherently unsafe the way it's designed. I think pedestrian safety exiting from the public parking area through corridors and the building itself is inherently unsafe. I think responsible developer from outside, from Washington, D.C. has told me that they would be required to pay for the park. Basically, the city will be expected to use impact fees to pay for a student-oriented amenity, diverting them from other community benefits like transit, walkability, bikeway improvements throughout the city. The city is leaving a lot on the table in terms of concessions from this developer that more responsible developers would be willing to make. The lawsuit may have an impact on the city for a finite period. This project will have a negative impact on for half a century or more until the building is torn down. Clemson should be a model for responsible development in terms of sustainability, environmental, and community impact, not the poster child for the worst kind of development motivated by greed and profit at any cost to the local community. The city basically put itself in this place by not being more proactive in terms of planning and zoning regulations. PDs in this city are treated simply as a zoning mechanism. PDs are intended to allow for creative development where developers get certain concessions for giving certain concessions on their part and amenities to the city. There's an imbalance between that in this case. PDs should be required to go through architectural review inherently. If that was the case, this project would be dead on arrival. Thank you very much, and I hope you will.
I'm Mary Jo. I'm a retired professor, and I've been in Clemson since 1945. Abernathy Park is the jewel of Clemson. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's delightful the way it is. It doesn't need $1 million facelift. Leave it alone. Leave the parking as it is. Leave the entrance and exit the way they are. They serve well. I'm sorry you are all threatened with the lawsuit. That's nerve-wracking. I know from personal experience. But it also is something that goes with your job. You took the money, you took the responsibility, and I'm so sorry this bad aspect has popped up. But you represent us. We are the town. We are Clemson. Please stand up and do the right thing. Vote this down. We can do better than this. If we have made Abernathy Park, think what else we can do. Help us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I brought no notes tonight. I wasn't even planning on speaking. But I just felt compelled seeing the crowd, seeing all you all. 3 of you are my neighbors. I consider you my friends. So I want to say something a little different. I sent an email today. My biggest concern is parking. I'm not naive enough to think that this is going to be developed. There's going to be development on Kiwi Trail. I'm not anti-development. I'm not anti-student. I teach students. I work at the university. But it is our responsibility, your responsibility, to do it in a deliberate, measured, responsible way. I applaud the work. I know you've put the work in. I know your jobs are not easy. As a 22-year Marine Corps officer, I just implore to you the moral courage. Moral courage. It doesn't mean you're immoral. It's the moral courage. You're going to look us in the eyes. You're not going to look the developer in their eye when they go away to another state with their pockets full. There's a way to do this responsibly. I know that I've read the documents. I know that you even have a better understanding than me. But as you see the full room, I hope you can see how full that room is. 210. Defer if you need to. I know that I haven't always been able to participate in these forums, but I felt it important enough to join my fellow citizens tonight. Moral courage, defer if you need to, figure out a way to develop that is a way that recognizes everyone's concerns. I felt a little bit of a less of a recognition of concerns. And communication could probably be improved a little bit, but I know that's a two-way problem. So thank you for your time. I know you have a hard time, hard job. I know that sometimes you're put in a position because of other previous zoning regulations. Let's get ahead of this. And if not now, what's the next one? What do we do then? Thank you for your time.
I'm Charlotte Holt. I'm born and raised in Clemson, 69 years and going, And I have some notes that I was going to send as an email, and of course I waited too long, so I hope you will let me just do this right quick and get out of your way. But you guys, I need to address those members who are facing the lawsuit. And I want to ask you to consider this lawsuit a badge of honor. I mean, I'm proud of you. You should be proud of yourselves for receiving this lawsuit. You're being sued for doing your job. You're being sued for trying to prevent further damage to the city of Clemson with more reasonable and thoughtful development. You're trying to prevent more short-sighted development, things that have already done irreparable damage to Clemson. You're trying to slow that down, stop that. You were being sued for trying to preserve our only walkable waterfront access in our beautiful Abernathy Park. You are being sued for attempting to protect what's left of Clemson's character and traditions. Basically, you're being sued for honoring your oath of office. Please don't give up. Sometimes the expense of fighting a lawsuit and even losing it is worth it when you're fighting for the right reasons and when you're trying to make life in Clemson better, both for the citizens who elected you and for the visitors, including the students who will pass through here. How is this hub project in its current design, how is it going to make anything better for the town of Clemson? I want to thank the women on the council after last vote for their foresight. I honestly feel like the women are thinking about the future and not just about the figures and the money. And I would like to thank the men on council for serving, and I'd like to think of all of you as friends and comrades on other projects, but I hate to think that your legacies, despite all the good that you guys are doing for the city of Clemson, I hate to think that your legacies are going to be tainted by your vote yes on this project. It's not too late to change your mind. There's no shame in changing your minds, but it will be a shame to abandon the principles of Clemson Next by voting to approve this second reading. Thank you.
My name is Bud Starnes. I'm a civil engineer, retired from Duke Energy. Based on the dimensions that I saw up here, some of the widths weren't quite the same, but I just want to point out that the scale of this, which has already been mentioned, is equivalent to approximately 4 Goodyear blimps, and you would still be able to see the top of this structure over those. That's all I have. Thank you.
Back. Just have a question for the men on city council who think that there's not enough people here normally. Is this enough people? Are we all too old? Not too many years ago, I was a single mom of 3 children, and I didn't have time out of my busy schedule between taking my 3 children to ball here, there, and yonder, making them food at home and all that, to take time out of my life to come down here and do something. I didn't live here at the time until my youngest child was in the 6th grade. So that's why there are not parents with young children here. They don't have time. 2 parents with 2 full-time jobs do not have enough time out of their schedule to hire a babysitter or let their children miss their ball practice, ball games, whatever. That's why they are not here. And I forget who it was that said they go to Abernathy Park every day and there's 17 parking spaces in the parking lot. I took a little drive down there once again on Saturday. There are 19 parking spaces in the parking lot, and there's a little gravel area off to the side of the road that says parking for Abernathy Park only, and at least 6 cars could fit there. So are y'all going to subtract that out of the plus 75? Because we're going to lose 75 parking spaces. That's all I have to say.
Good evening. My name is Ludmila Tsikhalova. I'm resident of Clemson for the past 10 years. And we love Clemson. We love.
You just have to speak up.
You just have to speak up a little bit louder, yes.
We love Clemson. And the Abernathy Park, living in downtown with children, it is a huge, a fantastic, an amazing, great thing. We had my children's birthday parties there. We really love the place. And I understand that it can be improved, but it can be improved better. It can be improved better than this project, and I'm sure that you will continue keeping this place beautiful and improving it, not making monsters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Bennett. I'm a resident of Curtis Circle. My question to City Council is, at what point are we going to consider workforce housing in these developments? There has to be a place for people who work at the university to be able to afford to live. At this point, that's not happening. And I just want to know, at what point will that happen?
Hold on, 1 second, Lane, yeah, yes, sir.
I want to piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Bennett said.
I know it's been stated up here that you've talked to students here at the university. Well, I've been talking to students, and I have to say, it's just arbitrary that I run into these kids in different places. And I want to tell you what they've said to me about student housing. And I didn't mention the hub. I just said, what do y'all think about all the building in Clemson? We can't afford luxury apartments. Number two, Clemson University is only interested in making money. Now, this is what the kids are saying. I didn't say this. Clemson University will not do student housing anymore because they don't want the responsibility that goes along with it. So my question to you is, why would the city of Clemson support this kind of behavior from our university? Why is that? Okay. The other thing I want to say is, it's also been, I'm just sort of up here as a rebuttal to things that have been said, that we have not been represented we didn't have enough numbers to represent the community. Well, my question to you is, look at these folk, and y'all need to take out all those Build a Better Clemson petitions that we walk the streets with. There's thousands of them. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and you can get the opinion off of those if you can find them in file 13. But there's plenty of opinions that support what we are saying here, and it's all on record with names and addresses and phone numbers. So I think the group here tonight represents what those petitions had to say several years back. And I agree that we need to do something. We need reasonable housing for our local kids, and not only our local kids, but the people who work at Clemson University who are not making big salaries. They're all having to come in here, and they can't live here because of this luxury housing. And so guess what? They're driving here from somewhere else. That means more cars. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Bostic. I'm a resident of 137 Folger Street. I am probably one of the youngest people here, and I am opposed to it, just like all these fun people. The biggest worry I have is the future. I want to have kids one day, and I worry how Clemson's going to be when they become my age. It's going to be, I can't even imagine how it's going to be in 50 years from now. It's going to be a nightmare. It already is. I have a lot of friends that are in college with me. I'm actually a student. And a lot of people my age and younger are opposed to this. And I've informed them and I've let them know. And I'll keep this short, but it's a tough situation for everyone. I understand that. And we just need to work together, and we need to show some resolve here. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
I'm Wendy Longo, and I live at 339 Summer Walk. And I was at the meeting at Clemson Downs the other night and heard the various sides. And I wonder if you could clear up for us something about the city's finances. I understand $5.5 million is what the suit includes. I never was quite sure of how much money the city has, but I understand there is some money. If you were to, for instance, as some people have suggested, make an offer for the land, they might take it, they might not, just to get rid of all the hassle. It might make the judge think twice about how he would react if the suit goes through. And I just think we need to know what we're talking about finance-wise. I understand that's a lot of money. I don't want the city to go into $5.5 million worth of debt. But I think that with the money you have and with the nice bankers that we have in this town, we could find money to make an offer on that land. I just think there are other options available to us, and this is too soon, even though it's late, to vote on this. But thank you for your service anyhow.
Nelson Vasquez, 104 Combahee Court, Calhoun Forest, and thank you, men and women of the council, for your service and for helping us out and getting through this. But I did notice, as the lady with the Good Trouble t-shirt, that it was the women that voted against and the men that voted for this project. And men and women think differently. There's a bundle of nerves between your hemispheres that coordinate the left and right. Women's corpus callosum is bigger and thicker than the men's. The men are thinking from one side of the brain, maybe profit, money. The women are thinking more globally how it affects Clemson. So I don't know how the vote's going to go. I believe it's going to be the same because you guys were pretty adamant where your positions. But for the future, all you need to do is vote in more women.
Hi, my name is Teresa Keene. I lived in Clemson for 31 years. I came here as a student in 1978, and it was a fabulous experience. I raised my family here. I have raised 4 children. We went to the local schools. I taught in the local schools, Morrison Elementary, which some of you remember. And they also are concerned about this. I now have 7 grandchildren. We used to do all of our stuff in Clemson, and now we can't because they can't get here. 2 of my children live in Greenville because they wanted to stay close. They all went to Clemson University as well, and they want to stay close. And I live right up now. I don't live in Clemson anymore. In 2009, I had to make a decision about whether or not I could stay in this town with the traffic and the bludgeoning things that were going up. And so I moved to Seneca. I am just over the bridge, and now I can't get to Greenville. When I go see my kids, it used to be a 45-minute drive. Now I can't get there. They can't get to me. We are now doing our family things in Greenville because Clemson is no longer a place for our family. That's my 7 grandchildren and my 4 grown children who are all loving Clemson. And you need to think about these things. I'm from the past. My kids are from the past. My grandchildren want to come here. They need to have a place that's not concrete. Thank you.
I have a special request before we start. Would the city council members stand up and cheer for all these people that came to and support? Thank you. I'm Butch Faree. I grew up here, went away, and came back. Things that I will hope you would consider is how important it is for this place to be called home by seniors. I mean, we got to worry about kids, but we got to worry about seniors. My dad lived here, died when he was 80, and Mary's dad passed away quite a long time ago, and there are a lot of others. And they were important to Clemson big time. Most of them were World War II vets, and they came to Clemson as professors. They needed some people that had college degrees to teach. And that's what my dad and Mr. Bell and Dr. Sand and all these others did that. And they were vets of World War II. But anyhow, that's just one thing. I want to thank y'all for what you're doing for us. And I hope you'll keep it up, and I hope you'll let these elderly folks and the children run down the street and consider letting somebody else find a place for this people that want to make a big building out of our park.
I'm Mary Berry. I live on Strawberry Lane, next door to Butch and George Faree on one side and the Holtz on the other side. We moved here in 1980. The children were brought up here, and when I first got wind of what was going on, and I got a postcard, it said on the postcard to call the mayor or call a member of the city council. I spoke to the mayor and I told him I was not in agreement with his 7-story building to house people. Also, if Clemson University could not provide their houses, they didn't need to come to Clemson.
Yes. Yes.
The mayor said to me, "Will you listen to me?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I don't know which developer, but a developer in the past had wanted to do something with that property and it was turned down." He said if we don't agree with this, he didn't know what might happen on the property. I thanked him. I still believe that the houses on Kiwi Trail can be improved. I remember one time when there was an office building there. If the houses cannot be improved, then what would be a better solution? Not a 7-story building. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Hashem. We live at 110 Country Walk Lane. My husband and I also own and operate a business in the city of Clemson. Oh, sorry. My husband and I also own and operate a business in the city of Clemson. We have 3 small children who like to go downtown, and we'd like to go more, but we cannot because it's hard to find parking. So frequently we find somewhere else to go. I know y'all are in a tight spot. I'm sure something will have to happen, a compromise will be made. I know something will have to be developed. But I would ask that you please consider the parking impact instead of 50% of the parking that you would require, not only 100% of parking for residents, but also an additional amount of parking for the City of Clemson community to use. Thank you, that's my request.
Good evening. I have something that's not important as building, but I'm concerned about the children. How many of you have taken your children down to the park to walk or push a stroller? No, none of you? I remember you saying when they started charging at the old Y to get in, you felt bad because your children couldn't go in free. Well, this is how I feel about the park. Where are the people going to take their children? There'll be no parking down there. My grandchildren started in strollers until they were, old enough that they didn't want to go anymore. But I am really concerned about the children. And where are the parents going to park to take out the strollers and the wagons and the tricycles? There'll be no parking at all. The students will take it all. And they're the ones who are going to hang out. They're going to be smoking marijuana. They're going to be drinking beer. They really are. That's what college kids do. And then you're going to have a problem with the police department because they'll be called there all the time. So anyway, try and take care of the children. Even if you have to put a gate and a lockup and a guard to let the parents park. Anyway, think about the kids too. They're important. Thank you.
I'm not prepared, but I'm going to give a speech. My name is Rupert McGinty. I'm 206 North Clemson Avenue. This project, my father was an architect. I grew up in Hilton Head. I've seen development. Back in the 60s, I saw development. And I won't going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. But Charles Frazier, I don't know if you know Charles. Everybody knows Sea Pines, right? Okay, that's where I grew up from the 1960s. So I know development. I've seen development. I worked construction as a kid before I went to Clemson University. And Charles Frazier had a vision. He was a strange man. He was short and had a very high-pitched voice. But when he spoke, everyone formed a circle around Charles Frazier. And he knew me, I knew him as a kid. And the thing about Charles Frazier is he always says, we're not going to be like Myrtle Beach. Look what happened in Myrtle Beach. It was I'm talking 1970, by the way. He said, we don't want to become like Myrtle Beach. So Charles Frazier's had a vision, and Fred Hack, who's friends of ours, developed the Hilton Head Plantation. Him and Charles agreed. We have to have a vision for Hilton Head. My gosh, it's oceanfront property. We can't have stack of shacks showing up everywhere with a view of the ocean. It will destroy everything. You think you're making money, but at the end you have nothing. You're left with a wreck. And Charles Frazier, his vision was, well, we're going to have large lots, low density. It's expensive, okay, but that's just the way it has to work sometimes for oceanfront property. And he allocated. It's a really crazy idea what Charles Frazier did. He goes, I'm going to allocate about 15% of Sea Pines not to be developed. 0. We're going to make it a nature preserve. So it's the Hilton L. It's the nature preserve in Sea Pines. It's there. You can go see it now. And it's empty. Quiet. Nothing. And that was the most powerful development going on in South Carolina in the 1970s. Hilton Head Island, Kiowa, big powerful islands. And here we are in Clemson, my little town of Clemson, I went to college in and live now, and we can't protect a little park. We can't even protect a little park. So something about this is just fishy. Something, we all know it's not quite right. We all know it's immoral. But I've got a feeling somebody's got something on somebody, or something's going on with legality that's controlling people. And people like Charles Frazier would never allow that to happen. Sorry for raising my voice, but that's what I want to say, is we all know this is true. And
yes, sir.
This vote, even if you say, grit your teeth and raise your hand, yes, it's going to be another lawsuit. It'll be a nightmare. So you really have to postpone this, push it back, delay it. This needs to be reconsidered. Everyone in Clemson is pretty much against it.
just gotta say one thing that I forgot when I gave my little comment. And I forgot about this elderly school teachers like my mom was. I talked about our dad, but the school teachers deserve a nice place to go for a walk.
Other comments? Making sure.
I see some people thinking that.
All right, then
They're coming.
Okay. All right.
Well, they were in the back, they were saying. I got Danny's statement, but she's.
Okay, if we can quiet down, yes, thank you.
You don't have to use that.
No, you don't have to.
Just talk loud.
All right, I'll try. So my name is Jessica Owens. I live on Berkeley Drive near Clemson Elementary School. And my primary concern is not whether the area will be developed, but how it will be developed and the negative impact that's perceived on the area as a result of the proposed plan. Like many others, I'm concerned about possible increased traffic in the area. I'm concerned about increased difficulty accessing parking near the park. I take my 3-year-old who's outside running around somewhere with my husband to the park every weekend to have a picnic by the lake. And we really appreciate the ability to pull up and park right next to the path, unload all of our picnic supplies. It's usually just me and him, and have a nice day engaging with members of the Clemson community as well as Clemson students in that space. More than anything, I am concerned about the fact that this feels like a departure from the vision that we set with Clemson Next. And for me, that creates a lot of cognitive dissonance, and I would like to see that vision represented in the eventual development that occurs in that space. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Is there anybody else?
I guess somebody else.
Okay.
Still chilling. And we'll make sure that I can start reading some comments.
My name is Shelley Gear. My voice is going to crack because I didn't expect to make a statement. I live at 204 Willow Street, and I'm opposed to this development. And while I'm standing here, I'm looking at our logo, our city logo that we, the design, and we're losing that design. That's a relatively new design. To me, these developments, the other thing is across from Bixby, there's going to be another high-rise, which nobody's brought up yet. And so that's 3, that's Bixby, I can't remember what the other one is. Signet, and then this. And it's just, it'll be a wall of concrete. We're gonna need a new design if we go through this.
We're going to read some, well, if there's anybody else, but we're going to read some public comments that were submitted earlier.
The first one I have is from Nanda Edgerton, and it was stated, I would like to request that our mayor and city council really dig deep within themselves and pull out the real reason they're about to vote the way they are on the first reading for the rezoning request. Rezoning request for the hub. Is their vote based on the fear of losing money, or is it based on their morals? And then we're in this together. The second comment came from Derek Hodgen, and he is writing about the Kiwi Trail. He indicated here that there's top 10 reasons to reject the hub. 1, citizens do not want it. 2, it is not consistent with the Clemson Next plan. 3, it is way out of scale for our community. 4, the congestion in Clemson will go from terrible to unbearable. The project lacks character, which fits nicely with most of the other unwanted mega-scale housing projects that have already been constructed. 6, the environmental impacts are significant both on the land and the lake and in the lake. Imagine the shadows that will be cast on any green spaces, even close to this unnecessary hulk. Imagine the impacts to Lake Hartwell from so much impervious development elements proximate to the shoreline at this location. And 7, developers are suing the City of Clemson council members who wants to have bullies for neighbors. You are better off letting the developers build to existing standards and reject the PD. It would be much less impact. 8, the construction would likely only meet code minimum requirements to maximize profits. Therefore, no short-term gain will offset the significant long-term liability of marginally constructed behoof. There are no green space donations large enough to offset the negative impacts of this development. And 9, the City of Clemson does not have adequate resources to absorb the demands of such a significant development without making infrastructure investment, all of which should be completely absorbed by developers but are not. And finally, it is not the responsibility of the City of Clemson to provide student housing to meet the demands of Clemson University's growth plan. Enough is enough. Please reject the worst plan that has ever been proposed. The next one comes from Sean Haney. Sean writes, I'm vehemently opposed to the hub PD and urge you to abide by your campaign promises and vote no. I can go into all of the reasons you should have already voted no on this PD. Not needed, not wanted, not in line with strategic planning or uptown feedback. Most residents are not in favor. Traffic nightmares on College Avenue. The fact that we should not be held hostage to lawsuits, etc. But I simply cannot wrap my head around the fact that the most common, sensical zoning factor, parking, has been conceded. 1 parking space for each bed should be required, period. There is no urban data presented by the propagandist developer that applies to Clemson. Students bring their cars, and in the extreme rare instance, one student doesn't. There will be no shortage of boyfriends, girlfriends lined up to park in their spaces. Less than half of the parking spaces just so they can make a profit should be insulting to you. This issue alone should solicit a rejection of the PD. Development should be deliberate, measured, and responsible. The last one, Jessica just spoke, so I don't think I need to read hers. And then Greg Anderson is the last one that we received. I would like to address the ongoing controversy surrounding this housing development project. The disrespect shown by council members to the public attendees at the April 1 meeting is disheartening and discouraging for community members looking to be involved in local civics. In addition to, it says major, but I think it means Mayor Halfaker reading a prepared speech showing his decision was already made, Councilmember Fulmer claimed that voting no on the development will, to paraphrase, cause problems we don't even know will exist. I can't give a direct quote because the meeting recording and minutes are not available online, and the Google Drive containing archived meetings has restricted access. Leave it to politicians to think they know better than an entire community. But more important than this behavior is the corruption surrounding development. As the president of Clemson University, a public institution, Jim Clemson is responsible for creating public policy and allocating public funds to the university's development. The agenda of rampant growth of the university, growing the student body, and lack of adequate on-campus housing directly creates demand for more off-campus housing. That the president can manipulate public policy to create this situation, and that his family, brother-in-law and father-in-law, can directly financially profit from it is a gross abuse of his position. Further, following the lawsuit personally naming council members coerces them to act in favor of the development company. Does anyone believe that the lawsuit will be dropped if the council votes against the development? Such behavior is characteristic of oligarchy. I said that wrong. Not the supposed system of checks and balances and public accountability that we claim. This situation creates a precedent for which public officials can manipulate public funds and policies. So that would be Greg Anderson.
Any other? Making sure in the back. I'm going to turn it back over to council for comments.
Let me, do you mind this one? First of all, I wanted to clarify one thing about the park. The park's not going to be destroyed. I mean, there's been some conversations about, there's some flyers out there about there's no intention to destroy the park. I don't think there's anybody sitting up here that I don't believe would say we are going to do that. Furthermore, our intent is to enhance the park from end to end, not just the park that is in the, I guess you see in the renderings. We're talking about, John and I have been talking about enhancing it from end to end. So, and that will include not only improving, the various pieces of the park, but also opening it up. And so you got a lot of brush and stuff there, so you've got an more open view and everything out there. But anyway, y'all all know that I have been talking about the numbers for quite some time. So I'm going to ask Andy if you would, just let us know just go through what effect this would have on the city from a financial perspective.
Well, the only damage we're aware of is
Please speak up.
the only damage we're aware of is the $5.2 million. That's what we're being sued for right now. We have a policy that says you have to maintain 6 months of your operating reserves in the general fund. So for us, that's $9.7 million for us to maintain 6 months. So this would bring us down to $4-something million, which is about 25% of what you would need. So what that does is, one, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for unforeseen capital expenses, major infrastructure repairs, things of that nature. We're going to have to, for the first time in the city's history, go to the private bond market to do wastewater treatment bonds to expand the Pendleton plant, which is the west side of town. And not going by your ordinance there and having that low debt capacity could impact your rates, which would impact rates for 30 years. It's also going to be, well, you could move money around, but $5.2 million is like, where do you want to hurt it? Do you want to hurt it in utilities? Do you want to decrease parks and recreation? I mean, there's a lot of heavy policy decisions that come along with this. Another where it's going to hurt us immediately would be in a lot of the projects that we have planned that include general fund money. We have some CDBG projects out there that have required financial commitments, matches, like the Abel neighborhood and what we're doing over there with the Red Hill water line, those two CDBG projects. We got several paving ones. Chapman Hill Road is on the list. Roslyn and Vineyard, Abel, Vista Circle, Ricks Drive. Those projects all have general fund money set aside in them that would have to be reevaluated based on your circumstances.
The ability to do the affordable housing
workforce
project,
housing
workforce housing
76.
option that we are working on right now on 76.
Right, we do have that land. It's through the congressional allocation. We basically focus on essential services. We'd get down to, there wouldn't be as much flexibility to do things in the quality of life realm.
But what you're saying is also we would not be bankrupt. We would not bankrupt the city for 5.2. And we have our insurance policy. And so I want to be clear that these people are here understanding that there's a cost to this.
If we lose.
Next, and we've all agreed to this. In Clemson Next, you guys were asked, as we all were, what's important to you in the future? And people said that. And then the next question was sort of, well, how do you want to pay for that kind of thing? So it wasn't an either or. So now you're at the either or. And that's what our residents are not ignorant about that. They are fully aware of what's at stake, and they are telling you how they feel about it.
Mr. Mayor, may I address that point of the cost of the lawsuit?
Actually, at this point, council has the opportunity to do comments unless they,
Okay, I was just asking for the council's permission to comment, to maybe clarify some points.
comments from council? Unless our attorney says, I'm always going to refer to him and make sure I do everything properly. Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay. Other comments?
Well, I kind of echo what, because I do understand the financial impact that this may have. But we're talking about the possibilities, and it's not a guarantee. I think for me, what's important is what is real for us right now is the development and what this vote means tonight moving forward. And that's the one thing I think we can control as a council. We can't necessarily control what other individuals or what happens at that particular point, because there are so many different scenarios that can apply, that we're going off of the what ifs, this if that happens, if this happens, if that happens, because in reality, we can also win.
Yes.
And I would not be opposed to, if there's a way, and I look at Chris, but to delay this vote, because once we vote, if we vote and it's a done deal, someone made that point, this is inevitable and this is lifetime, this is the forever. And I need to know forever, because we would lost it ever. Because we do a lot with ifs and possibilities, but what happens if we can do what is important for our residents and for the residents to show up, and we can't ignore the fact that we are elected by these individuals. But we do have a responsibility for the people who are here, because if it's so important for a lot of other ones, we would hear from them just as much being here as well. So I think it's important that we do our very best and are honest, because once this is done, it's what we have to live with forever. And I just want to know that we're certain and positive, because a lot of what it feels like sometimes is I don't want to say fear, but sometimes that's what that feels like. I don't want to make my decision based off of that. My decision has to be based off of what really will benefit and be good for this community, and we have to see these individuals each and every day, and I want to be able to look them in the eye and know that we did what was best for them. Because they've elected us, and we have to make those decisions, because they don't get to sit around the table and hear all the things that we talk about, understand some of the things that we have to deal with. That's important. At the same time, they use the amenities. They're taking advantage of the amenities. They pay the taxes in this town. So we have to take into account some of those things. So I think it's important for us to be able to truly make sure we've unturned every stone, every pebble before we make a decision that could, in essence, create backlash that we're just not ready to foresee. Those unintended consequences we always talk about. Are we really ready to start doing some of that? So I would just say, I would not be opposed. I think that would be the wise for us, because we waited this long. What's 2 more weeks? That's all I can say.
Other comments?
I'll say my piece. I agree with what she said, and I'm just going to build on it, because I don't think I need to. I think she said it
pretty well. I look at it really simply. My job is to do what you tell me with the details that I'm provided from the experts on staff and legal counsel. And with all of that knowledge, I still am of the opinion that this project is not right. And so I don't think it fits with the Clemson Next plan. I think that this strays far, and if we set a precedent with that, what's to say the next developer doesn't come in and point to this? And we can say that PDs are all, there's no precedent for each PD, but I don't think developers will see it that way. I think that we would also set a standard for if you don't like our decision, you can sue us. Yes. And I'm not willing to roll over and just say, please don't. And I think everybody up here has lost sleep over this and is really making their decision based on what they truly believe is the right thing. I don't want to discount that. I think every single person up here has thought long and hard and talked with their spouse and their trusted people about what the right thing to do is. And I think that's important to point out to the public that these gentlemen have done that and they are losing sleep over this. And I think that they're acting in what they truly believe is right for the city. We just have different decisions at the end of it. So I respect you guys. Thank you for being here. But I am with Alicia on this.
I think that's nicely put there, Dan William, because we sometimes do digest information differently, and my vote over the years has been different than what the audience likes many times. But you come in and question, it does make us think. Even if we see things differently, it lets us examine and re-examine projects. I took the financial component of if we purchased it, because I've heard people ban around purchasing the property, and in my opinion, I think that does put us in a tough financial position if we were to try to do that at whatever level. And I interpret some of the information from staff and from planners and other people talk a little bit differently. I like the lower parking because that removes the ability for people to bring cars. I understand that in the South, the percentage is still 66%. Probably was higher. In other areas, it's 40%. Well, it works its way down, but if you had the parking there, they're coming. So keeping the parking lower prevents cars from coming that way. And the density and the walkability are important to me. I think I had the opportunity when this was presented as a hotel to vote against it. And there was a lot of, there was a little more gray area around there then, I think, of how the whole place develops. And then as it came along as a PD at 5 stories, it never made it all the way to council. And certainly that was an option, but that was strongly opposed at that time as well at 5 stories. So the height is always going to be fluid and changing. So, and I do look to it with the future. I think I see it a little bit differently. I see the opportunity to make the park special from Wendy's all the way around to the children's amenities at JC. And ultimately, and this is 10, 15, 20 years down the road, because y'all are right, this does make a decision for a long way of time. But it's a little bit of a domino. You get that catalyst and that area develops. Dollar General and the post office, they may become 3-story by right. Maybe on the other side, some of the other stuff does, but the park's the key thing. And the 123 corridor, giving it the opportunity to turn around and face both sides, ultimately, that's dependent upon the improvement of the park in that area, which we can do either way. I understand people say that, but as we just went through finances on a very high, very nominal level just then, it would put us in a position where that would certainly be well beyond my lifetime and the next if we did that. So we'd be looking at the second iteration of whatever came there. So I do appreciate everyone coming out and speaking. I have listened. I have talked to people. I've talked to some of you one-on-one as we move forward, and it has helped me to question it more and more, but this is consistent with where I've been on it and the whole time. So, and I appreciate some folks up here don't agree, but that's kind of still where I am.
You want me to chime in?
You want to go last?
No, I don't have to go last. No, I'll express the same comments that John just said about, I appreciate everybody's engagement, comments, emails. I think sometimes there is a loss in translation, maybe when I'm communicating, but I certainly try to the best of my ability to always communicate wholeheartedly and what's in the best interest for the whole community. I've lived here for almost 50 years, if you don't know that. I'm fortunate to be able to raise my kids here, and hopefully if I have future generations and grandkids, I hope they can raise their kids here too. I have not, and I think Lillian said it very well, we all have had sleepless nights. We don't take this lightly. We always have to do what's in the best interest of the overall community. And I know that this is not everything we want, but I have to reiterate, what is in the best interest for the whole community when I make decisions. And when I say I'm one vote, but I'm also doing it after talking to people, engaging, listening, communicating in all forms and fashions. I am open. Someone has even said, when you send the editorial, you put your email and cell phone. Absolutely. I'd much rather people contact me and engage. And we may not always agree on the principle, or we may not always agree, but I'm going to take the time and energy to always put in what's in the best interest of the city based on all the facts. I'm going to emphasize that word, based on all the facts that are involved. Yes, we have to consider the financial. We also have to consider the other benefits of a green space, of walkability, and also those types of things. So I've shared more detailed. I've been asked that this was, I think someone has said that it was scripted last time. Well, that's after 2 years of going through Clemson Next. I mean, that was part of the community engagement of how we're dedicating areas within the city for high density. But we're also protecting, enhancing neighborhoods by dedicating those areas, part of the Clemson Next guidelines. So again, we'll reiterate, I'm always wholeheartedly, I've been here for pretty much except 2 years of my life, do what's in the best interest of the city based on all the facts.
So just a couple of things that I want to say. First of all, as someone who has been in the parks and recreation profession for my entire career as an adult for over 30 years now, there's no person that is more of an advocate for that world and would be opposed to destroying a park. As a matter of fact, I think that there are multiple opportunities where this park, we will have complete control over the design of the park from the road. This is exactly why a number of people do not come to these meetings or get on social media. Because as soon as you say something that people do not agree with, you get jumped on and you can't have the respectful conversation. That is 100% of the people that, of hundreds of people that I've spoken to that are not opposed to this. That is why they don't jump in the mix, because of those kind of reactions. We will have 100. We will be able to improve and expand that park. It can be things whatever the community deems it to be. It can also stay exactly the same if you want it to be that. So, having said that, Clemson Next, I've done this with people. I could go through those principles in the beginning of Clemson Next. There are things. Focus areas on density and those kind of things are ways that you can avoid these things. It clearly says in Clemson Next that for us to have workforce and affordable housing, that having density in targeted areas is a way to keep some of the speculative buying in our historic African American neighborhoods and our neighborhoods that are out there is a way to redirect where student development is occurring. There, again, you can go through Clemson Next and you can make arguments, very good arguments, that many of the things that we're doing with this still live up to that plan. Uptown Next, which was the next extension of that, hung on the idea of identifying and getting a master developer. We did an RFP. That did not occur. And the master developer, all of that you saw, relied on a master developer getting letters of intent and all of the property owners under contract so that you could then develop it in a different way. And that plan that everybody looks at and says, why don't we do that? It has a 6-story building dead in the center of that plan, as well as 5-story buildings and 4-story buildings and 3-story buildings. So this is not as far off from those plans as you think it is and as you imagine it is. And so I'm not willing to throw the entire plan out because of that. The last thing that I will say as far as this decision goes, again, and I know I've said this before, and other speakers up here, first of all, the gentleman that was talking about Hilton Head, that's exactly when you have a master developer that has all of the property under their control, it's really, really a whole lot easier to do those things that he discussed. So, at the end of the day, this project, in my opinion, is better than what we will get with straight zoning. With straight zoning, the very least you're going to get is a 3-story building. And with the contours of that property, it could very well be 2 levels of 3-story buildings along that roadway that will appear to be a 6-story building from certain angles that you look at it. Creative designers can do lots of things. In our current code, any project can come and buy a 50% parking reduction in these areas. So all of these things that we're worried about may occur. Under this PD, we're in a position to negotiate. We're in a position to, we're in a position to negotiate. We've gotten additional concessions from the developer. And again, I would take a PD development over what can go there with straight zoning without considering the lawsuit at all every day of the week.
Robert, I would like to make a motion that we send this back to the Planning Commission. As noted, we have had several questions from the community. We have had numerous concerns with representation. We have had numerous concerns from attorneys. We have things that we need to do, and sending it back to slow this down for 4 weeks, a project of this scope that will irrevocably change this city. Irrevocably. So when you guys look at it 5 years from now, like you did at Dockside, and go, holy crap, what did we do? It's too late. And so that's the thing. When we said Dockside, when we ran for office, it was like, well, we won't do that again. And so I am making a motion that we send this back to Planning Commission for Herb and his group to make sure that we have dotted the i's and crossed the t's and answered the public's questions.
So there's a motion, is there a second? Further discussion?
I'll say with Dockside, there was a PD proposed for that, and what we did was that PD was something that didn't end up going down the road, and Dockside is what you get with straight zoning. That's 100% of a fact.
It also shouldn't have been vested, for the record, but that's a whole other story.
Well, I seconded it because I think time is important.
And I guess I have a few things, because if we do with that motion, I think it just, I guess the question I would have for my fellow council members, what would be the harm at this particular juncture? Because we say we care and we want to do what's best for all of Clemson. We have for folks, we have some issues, we have some concerns. Because we have to do this vote, we have to make a decision. So it's going to be made one way or the other. So what would be the harm in doing that? Because then we can at least show the people we are listening, and we take that in consideration and give that an opportunity, because I don't know if there are things that we haven't explored, and I know you all said we have, but I still am under the mindset, I don't necessarily believe we've explored every opportunity, because I still have some questions that I'd like to ask. And I do have some comments that I know people have reached out to me, and I told them I would read it during my remarks. But since this motion is up, I don't want to go into that just yet. But what would be the harm? So I would think that we can do just that if that allows us to do that. Because then we're doing everything possible to make sure. Because once again, this is a decision. I'm not sure why we feel the need to hurry it through or rush it through, because it's something that has to be vetted, I think, to a point that our citizens also realize that we're doing the hard work. Sometimes I think it's easy to just say we're going to vote and move on. But what would be the harm in at least taking that into consideration? We could still have the same result, but at least we would have done a little bit more to vet those issues. And so, because then those people, as you say, Bob, maybe there's a way to get that input from people without necessarily have to come in person. But I just would love to hear some of that a little bit more. But for me, that gives us a chance to at least hear and focus on that. So what would be the harm in doing that?
For me, it's straightforward. It's time to vote on it. The hard work's been done. This has been done for months. This didn't just show up on April the 1st for a council vote for first reading. It was Planning Commission before that. It was months of conversation. We put out an RFP, which this council voted on, and this largely meets the standard of to move this thing forward. So this has been in the works for months and months and months. So
But there
I kind of like to finish my comment, but to say that the hard work, I mean, that's what I've been doing on this for quite a long time, for years even. Since we moved past that 5-story PD, the hard work's been being done. Since this came up from Clemson next, since this has moved forward.
Just to make sure we're staying focused on all council members when they're speaking, if you don't mind. Thank you.
I guess
I'll be quiet, but that's going to be my stance on it. Now, you obviously.
Point of clarification, though, it's not what we've done as a council, but now that we've gotten all this feedback, because we didn't have that.
And I've been asking for that for a long time as well.
But we didn't have that, but now we do. And so that's, no, I know my opinion, but I'm just saying, that's my question. It's not about what we've done as a council, but now that we're sitting here and we're listening, we're getting all this input, what would be the harm? It's not about what we've done, because in essence, we work for them. So it's not about our jobs are over. We got to do what's best to work for them. So that's who we work for. We don't work for ourselves. We work for the community. So that's why I'm asking that question.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. But we've had 2 public hearings who were well attended. We've had, in which we actually had one additional one because there was a change with the Planning Commission. If you remember, we had to send it back. So that created the second public hearing, and then which were well attended. We had 2 conversations with council, which I feel like were very well attended. And then we've now had 2 council meetings, which we obviously are very well attended here. And then this has been out there on social media now running for, whether it's Together for Clemson or wherever, it's been out there being tried back and forth. So, I mean, if people think we haven't been listening or seeing or hearing, I mean, I'm sorry, but we have. I mean, it's been out there for at least 60 days, probably longer than that, just on social media. I mean, I don't know what else we can hear.
Well, there are a lot of changes. I mean, first of all, there have been a lot of changes since whatever it was, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because the plan that we saw in September clearly included the park, because you and I had a whole discussion about the marina. So it has evolved. The environmental impact has evolved. The impervious surface has evolved. The easement going from what they were giving us to expand the park to just an easement to 30,000 square feet that they control is a question. I believe the residents deserve some sort of operational plan. I'm big on plans. An operational plan, and we can't answer those questions. Here's the deal. We know what happens when you say yes, because we say yes way too often. So you say yes, and then you're like, okay, here you go. But the fear that you guys have is that you don't know what happens if we say no. You don't know what happens if we wait and we get another option, because this is the easy path that we've taken too often in this community. And now all we're asking is a chance to slow down and talk about it and write out the
So, Catherine, I think, this is my opinion, that sometimes, in my opinion, the easiest answer is always no. Because you don't weigh all the options. I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just saying you have to weigh all facts when you make a decision. And that's where I will reiterate the 2 public hearings, the conversations with council meetings, the emails, the phone calls. And I'll speak for myself. I don't like just speaking for myself, but I know I've responded to pretty much every single one. And I've taken that all in my head for what it's worth. And with other input from other people that will constantly, you get the same, and then I'm gonna do what's in the best decision. And so I kind of differ when you say, I think the easy route sometimes is to say no, because you don't know. If you say no, well, we gotta also think about what the consequences when we say no. And I will say, there are a lot of factors in this. It is not just based on a lawsuit. It is not. You have to think about what we're getting. Again, I've said it before. It's not everything I would like to see there, but we're getting benefit.
But isn't it important enough to try to get everything that you want there? That's my question. That is my legitimate question. That's my legitimate question.
I would say what you want vary from person to person. This is Bob.
I understand that, but I'm asking a legitimate question, which is we don't even have that discussion anymore because it's no longer in our control. And that's just it. We have given up control of too much acreage and too much land that we have no control over. And we have a big neighbor that takes control over a lot of it. And we have a lake that, we have all that. So I'm advocating that we take as much time as we need to try and make this the best decision that we can. That's all I'm saying.
When you say no, it could have been a hotel. It could have been a 5-story hotel. Said no to that. There were some other projects that came forward that would have been less dense than this. We said no. When you say no, you got to be careful what you're saying no to. When actions of council do things that potentially are such that developers bail out, and you say no, where it would have been less. Every project that came was less density, less beds than this was in the past.
Where did we say no?
I've not seen.
Said no to the
vote. The other one just was stopped in public.
We're stopped along the way because of what's happened along the way. We know what happens when you continually say no. So again, I'm going to go back to the park. Those original drawings, those were concepts of what the park could be, not what it is. Again, the city of Clemson, there's no circumstance where the city of Clemson does not control that park from Kiowee Trail as it currently exists. And that 30,000 square foot plaza has a public easement where the public will be allowed to use that as during that time. There's going to be retail there. Who's going to open a business if the developer isn't going to allow people to walk up to that business? Again, it can be an expansion. Even if there's 25 or 30 parking spots down there now, the parking spots that are being added increases that at a minimum for just regular parking 2.5 times, and that cul-de-sac can increase the number of handicap parking spaces that are currently available. All of those things are completely possible, and we have control over them. The hysteria about the park, and again, the park can stay exactly the same if that's what the community wants. So the hysteria about the park needs to be removed from this conversation.
There's a motion now.
Yeah, I said we vote on the motion.
Yeah.
So we have a motion. Catherine, would you repeat your?
I move that we send the hub proposal back to Planning Commission for a 4-week final review and for documentation of the things we have learned and the concerns that have been addressed over the public period.
Second.
All right, so we had a motion and second. We already had our comments. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, raise your hand. All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Well, before you make the motion, I just want to, I promised that I would share this if we keep it quiet, but one of the residents reached out to me directly, and I just wanted her to, I said I would share this with her, and so I didn't get a chance to share it my first time. But she just wanted me to make sure that you all who voted yes for the first reading, one of the things she noticed is we do a lot of talking about whether students are going to bring their cars downtown or bring their cars with them, and that really is not the issue for her to really pass through traffic, because that's pass-through traffic. Her concern is whether or not the 5-story, and she says 5-story, or this building provides more housing for Clemson staff and faculty near campus. If this were a 5-story development of condos or market-rate apartments with adequate parking aimed at faculty and staff, I highly doubt there would be this much community opposition. Furthermore, I'd like to address Bob Brookover's claim that those who will be excluded from access to Abernathy Park should go to 12 Mile Park to run. It's a slap in the face to suggest that residents should go to a park with an entry fee for their daily walk or run. I live in an apartment complex with no outside space and rely on parks to get exercise and fresh air. And then my last one was from...
Can I respond? For the record, that's not what I said at all.
And Catherine Arden, she wanted me to just share that she lived here from 62 to 75. She was a student living off campus. She was a parent of a Clemson student. And she's just concerned about we need to make major improvements to roadways from campus along College Avenue, Highway 23 that are needed, and that this would create a bottleneck. So if there's going to be any improvement, that's something that should be considered as part of this project. The intersection of College Avenue Highway needs increased capacity as well. Both areas will be negatively impacted if additional resident units are built in that area. So that's what I wanted to share with those comments that were sent to me directly.
Appreciate it. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the second reading of PUD 000177-2023 PUD Hub Clemson as presented.
Second.
All right, comments, discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed?
Shame!
Continue city council meeting. Next we're going to go into other policy items to consider a renewal of the memorandum of agreement between the Sullivan Center and the city of Clemson.
Every year, we renew our Sullivan Center with a contract for services for our employees and their immediate family members.
Hold on, Tracy. Hold on, Tracy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we still have an active meeting going on. If you please go outside and respond as we continue the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Tracy, has the cost gone up for the contract? Really? That's great. That's good to know.
All right, we're
I
gonna,
assumed you were going to say that the cost had gone up.
Lisa just stepped out, but we're just gonna keep on going. I'm trying. All right. Jeremiah, is it still actively? Okay, thank you. All right, Tracy, please go ahead. Tracy.
So what I presented to you guys is just a renewal of our contract for Sullivan Center for services for our employees and their immediate family members to acute care services. The cost is staying the same. There's no changes with that. And we do pay them quarterly, and it comes out to be $25,000 a year.
We can't hear.
So we're just asking for approval to continue.
Nobody can hear.
Okay.
What's going on?
Sorry, Tracy. We're trying. We're trying. All right, appreciate it.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the heads up. All right, Tracy. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Sullivan Center contract. We partner with the Sullivan Center. It's on campus at the university to provide low-cost acute care services to our employees and their immediate family members. It's a contract we've had, our service memorandum of agreement with them for honestly 15 plus years now. Cost is staying the same. There's no increase. Services are staying the same. We've spoke to them. They've actually have more telehealth services available, so hopefully our employees will start to be able to utilize that as well. But cost is staying the same with the agreement of $25,000 per year.
Questions, comments for Tracy? I think it's a great partnership.
One of the best things I think we did for our employees.
Good for our employees. Any other comments? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the renewal of the memorandum of agreement between the Joseph F. Sullivan Center and the City of Clemson for specified health services.
Second.
Okay, comments, discussion, public? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you, Tracy. Have a good evening. Next is consider a professional service contract for McMillan, Paston, Smith, Jay, and I believe Bob's
I'm going to recuse myself from this. I do not have an interest in this project, but in the past, I have worked with McMillan, Paston, Smith as a subcontractor on some projects, so I'm going to leave the
Make
room.
sure you also put it on file with Jeremiah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You have Jeremiah again. You got it.
Oh,
Jay, yes.
sir. Back in December, the council directed us to do an RFP on the proposed new building that would host the Art Center and the department's programming events. So we put out an RFP in January. We got results in the end of the month. We did interviews, narrowed it down to 2 firms. The committee voted McMillan, Paston, and Smith to do the project. So you each have a copy of the proposed contract. Lisa Lonnie is here to answer any questions that you have.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Questions? Comments?
Question, I'll just make a comment. As I was fortunate enough to sit on that committee, we had great applicants, great people looking at this for us, and these guys did a wonderful job. And I mean, as y'all know, this is kind of a holistic, the art center, the activity center, and then CAM. I mean, it's all got to kind of work cohesively together, and thought they did a really nice job and give us a good opportunity. So.
Other comments? Comments from the public? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve professional service contract with McMillan, Pasden, Smith as presented.
Second.
Any more comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, I'll go get Bob and we'll start. Chief, you're up. Thank you. Oh, you got him? Andy? Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Chief, you got two, and I'll let you go through both unless you want me to read them. So, okay. Yes, sir.
Real quickly, we're getting towards the end of the school year for the public schools, and it's time to renew our contract with the public schools, and we gave all of our employees raises this year, so I had to update the amount that we charge the school board, and that's the only thing that changed in this contract.
Questions, comments for Chief?
This is probably a dumb question. So the school pays for this officer's salary?
Correct.
The whole, I mean, for the 9 months they're there?
Correct. 9 months plus if there's anything during the summer that they.
So they're on the school's dime for the whole year?
For the most part, yes.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions for Chief? Comments from the public?
So just to clarify, part of the reason for that is we have required training that the officers have to do. So that's time away from the school that they do for training. And so I have to put another staff member in there. So when you start adding all that time up, that kind of covers the stuff over the summer. So even though they're not physically there during the summer months, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, it's to help cover all those costs.
But again, it's still the equivalent of one officer?
Correct.
Okay.
Appreciate you clarifying that. Any other comments? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion, we authorize Chief Campos to sign a contract with the school board for a school resource officer at Clemson Elementary.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Chief. You're still up. You're still up.
The second one is, so a little backstory. As you all are aware, we have a contract with the university to program Dawson Park, but the park itself, it does not reside within the city limits of Clemson, and therefore, by ordinance and by statute, our jurisdiction stops right at the line. So in order for us to patrol that, we found an Attorney General's opinion that says if we have a lease or contract on property that's outside the city limits, we can provide law enforcement services. However, our municipal court and our ordinances do not extend outside the city boundaries. So I need a legal vehicle to be able to not only go over there and patrol, but when we effect an arrest, without getting into too much legalese under the Fourth Amendment and seizure and all of that, I need to have the authority to be there. So I've worked it out with the sheriff's office to give us routine patrol of properties that we have contract or lease with for law enforcement services. And if we were to make an arrest there, it would be on a state law violation, and we would have to go through the county magistrate court or general sessions if it were a more serious crime. And that just protects all of our officers for taking any kind of law enforcement action there, co-authored with the county, the sheriff's department. We're still in talks with the university, since they are the owner of the property, to maybe expand the mutual aid agreement with them, but that hasn't worked itself out yet. So at the very minimum, as long as I have the authority of the sheriff, that's the highlighted section on what was provided to you, then that covers us for now. Sorry for the long explanation, but just trying to make sure we're all covered.
That was good, very thorough. We appreciate it. Comments for Chief? Somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we authorize Chief of Police to sign an updated mutual aid agreement with Pickens County Sheriff's Office as presented.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Now
it.
it's my turn to recuse myself, because if I understand correctly, these will deal with my employer.
Okay. You make sure you get that to Jeremiah as well.
I bet you'll track me down.
All right. So Leslie, next is to request the approval of 3 new bank accounts that are required by the state. I'll let you keep on going, Leslie, if you're okay with that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. We have had the opportunity to receive 3 grants, and they are by the state, and based on their regulations, they are requiring us to have an individual bank account for each grant. And so we're asking for that authority to open those bank accounts.
Seems simple enough. I said it seems simple enough for grants.
Other comments or questions, I should say, other comments or questions for Leslie? From the public? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the 3 new bank accounts that are required by the state for the CDBG and ARC grants that have been awarded to the city.
Second.
Okay. Comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you again, Leslie. Next is Mayor Council reports, comments, new business.
I'm not certain if this is appropriate at the time. I know John.
Speak up.
I know that John has already talked, I think, to Chief Kramer, but out of respect for Bob Jones, who passed away on, I guess it was Friday night. I'm not positive about that, but it was this past weekend. He was a gentleman that was there whose wife spoke of the EMS unit and the response time, et cetera, there, which was on pick. Anyway, it happened. And so sadly, he died the next day. And so I want us to absolutely go after that, one. And two, I think we need to do it in his honor. Or as a memorial, either way, we do it in his honor.
I think Andy's checking on what our services and
We need to do it. I don't know what it's going to take, but we have to do that.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for taking the lead.
No, John's taking the lead.
Andy's got it.
I called Dan the next morning.
Yeah.
I called Nan the next
Oh, you
morning.
did? Okay, great.
And you've looked into what we can do to make that situation better and all that.
Thanks, taking action.
With the response times and those kind of things.
Prayers for her and her family, very much so. Other comments?
I want to brag on my kid. She got Student of the Month at Clemson Elementary this month.
Congratulations.
And what else?
In leadership.
I get to see her occasionally when I come in and see my
I'm sure she'll brag.
mentee.
She is always
My
excited to
mentee.
see you, and she always tells me, and this time I'm sure she'll brag about it to you.
So, speaking of Clemson Elementary, there is a walk to school on Friday morning. I know everybody got that announcement, so if you can come, I think it's great. It's always awesome to see how many people are walking to school, so enjoy
We
that
just
biking.
have to watch that intersection though. That 3, everybody's decided
have
now
police.
that's
We
the
have-
place
There's
to
always
wait.
police
We
out
always
there.
have police.
I
We're
know,
thankful to
but-
Chief and his team. They're there at that intersection.
I just wonder at some point, it's almost going to be a parking lot.
Oh, we come up people dumping their kids out.
They sit there and wait, and so that whole that three-way stop is a parking lot because
Try to encourage them to use Clemson Park.
They can use Clemson Park, and I
Use
think we
Clemson
got,
Park.
Yeah, they've been
if I'm
doing
not
a pretty good
mistaken, we
job
still
now.
also have permission at Walmart parking lot. Yeah, I thought so. So we have 2 options.
well, I know I'm not saying there aren't options, but we have to do a better job of discouraging it.
All right. Any other comments, reports, new business? Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Any comments, discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much.
No one know what to do.